How are you? It's gonna have Ron. That means I'll just pan and pan.
Okay, welcome to everyone. My name is Larry Bird, and I'm the owner of Ambassador Escrow. And I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your day to join us. I think it's going to be a very informative afternoon, and we're really pleased to have you here. I also want to thank all of our sponsors, those that made today's program possible. Ambassador Escrow, I already introduced myself, but also Modern Realty, Catalyst Lending, Realty Procs, which is your virtual real estate office, and also the Farmers Insurance Group. Take an opportunity, we're going to have one break or after the sessions to say hello to the sponsors and introduce yourself. These people are contributing to make all this happen, and certainly give them a try if you have the opportunity to meet them, and we appreciate your assistance in that area. One housekeeping item. If you parked in the lot, the hotel parking lot, please do not forget to have your ticket validated. The validation machine is right out at the registration desk. It's $5 for parking with validation, and it helps a lot. So please do not forget to do that. Let's quickly review the program for today. I'm going to kick it off with just about 4 slides about Ambassador Escrow. Then Renee-Marie Smith is going to talk and is our keynote speaker on the advanced short sale training. Also followed by Marie Chung, and she will be giving updates on the market. And then we'll have Doug Thompson and Glenn Hauerkamp to talk for a few minutes about some of the fraud activities that they're seeing on short sale deals, which I think would be interesting as well. So with that, I'll get started and kick it off. And all right, looks like we're all set with that. Just a brief overview of our products, and we do have REOs and short sales. We're specialists in that area. It's really been my background in my career, so that was the area we really got started in initially. We obviously do residential sales, or as they're being known as equity sales these days, since short sales have become so popular. We do refinances as well, and we have a commercial group that handles commercial closings and refinances as well. We do auctions, 1031 exchanges, and we do tracks, and that's been a service that's just been kind of on our array of services with little attention in the last few years. But the builders are starting to see some activity. We're starting to see in certain pockets that they're coming back, and I'm real pleased to see that. So we're going to try to do some of that business as well. We have a very experienced team. We are proud of our proactive solutions and pride ourselves as problem solvers in our work. We've worked with all the major banks and real estate organizations. Worked with Freddie. We've closed over 600 Fannie Mae escrows, and so we have a depth of experience in our organization. In the area of short sales, our short sales staff has experience. Everyone knows that there are frustrating delays, and there are additional documentation, and most real estate agents that I know frankly don't like them. What we're here to talk about today is how to make those a little easier and how to really profit from them. So, but I wanted to let you know that we are experienced in them. We want to provide quality service, and we'll provide step-by-step assistance and guidance on short sales at Ambassador Escrow. And the last slide really is just client first, service is king, and commitment to you. Certainly cliches, but as the owner of Ambassador Escrow, we do talk about these things, and they become important watchwords for us. I spent most of my career in servicing. I spent over 20 years working for City Mortgage, GE Capital Mortgage, and GMAC. So I understand the importance of service when it comes to selling real estate and escrows. We know our service to the client is the only thing that differentiates us, and that is what we rely upon to provide service and get those repeat customers. Service is king. We already exceed the expectations for service. I was once told if you answer the phone and can answer questions, you're already hit 90% ahead of everybody else in the escrow business. So we do answer the phone and we do answer questions. So we understand, again, the service involved. And commitment to you. Just like real estate agents, we understand that repeat customers is really the key to our profitability. And if we don't satisfy you with our closings, you're not going to come back. So we understand that, and that is really something that is important to us. We have to do better than our competitors. There's a lot of them to choose from out there, and we know that. Quality service is personalized service to us, and that's the watchword that we use in our business. So call us, give us a try. We'd love to work with you if we have the opportunity. And thank you again for coming today, and we welcome you to today's event. So with that, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, which is our keynote speaker. Renee-Marie Smith is an attorney, author, and quite simply, a short sale guru. She's negotiated short sales since 2007, counseled thousands of short sale participants. Her company, Smith & Associates Title Services, is based in Florida, and they have handled thousands of short sales in their title company. She's been an expert in the area in real estate industry for 15 years. She has also been on TV's 2012 Short Sale Guru show on Fox 29. And she's a renowned speaker at many conferences and events such as this. So we were very fortunate and very pleased to have Renee speak to us today. So please welcome Renee.
Wow, gotta live up to that one. Okay. Anyways, welcome to Advanced Short Sale 2013. I think all of us at this point are obviously familiar with the term short sale. How many in this room have actually handled a short sale for a seller? Everybody, great. So that you're in the right room then, because this is the advanced one. My goal here now is to help you utilize everything that's transpired in the last 5 years, so that not only is your 2013 short sale business successful, but this also helps you use this base that you created from this experience and work it into your business plan to take you forward for the next 5 years on integrating. And just kind of a show of hands, how many in this room think short sales will be around for the next 5 years? Good guess. You know, one of the recent conferences I was at, Chase Bank basically said the estimate right now nationally is 28 million mortgages are underwater. So I know a lot of us are a little concerned with the Mortgage Debt Relief Act that's going to come to a technical close at the end of December. It is my opinion that most likely at some point in 2013 will get extended. But that is not going to end short selling in any case or matter. There's just too many houses out there. Like I tell most of my short sale sellers, if you owe $100,000 or more than the house is worth to your mortgage, you will do a short sale. Whether you short sell it this year, in 5 years, 10 years, unless you live there and pay it off, you will do a short sale. And our job and my goal today is to help you get them to list it and sell it now. Okay? And how to do this in the most advanced way possible. So that being said, basically I'd like to say, we'll go back to my quote for 1 second. I like this quote because so many in the industry. First off, congratulations to all of you that are still here in the industry. There's so many in the industry, you know, we hear short sales, they're so tough, you know, all these pitfalls, all these things. And I always laugh and say, you know, really, there are people doing it. You know, I have an agent out in Las Vegas that closed 40 this year. You know, I have an agent in Florida that consistently has 30 short sale listings at any one time. It is very possible to do. And not all of them go as smoothly as you want, and not all of them close in 90 days. But there are some things that you can do to increase the likelihood of that happening, and I'm going to share that with you today. He was kind enough to do a wonderful introduction to me, so I'm going to kind of go a little off screen here. My father's a developer. I always laugh. I grew up on backhoes and at job sites and drywall and all that kind of stuff. So real estate seemed very natural to me, you know, and everyone always laughs when I can explain things and understand what the building should actually be like. And of course I sold properties for him growing up at trade shows, et cetera, and so forth. And went to law school because I found being a realtor was much too challenging. So I respect what you all do very much. You are the front line for this market, and you deserve a lot of credit for that. So all the accolades aside on the screen, I really give you a lot of credit for being here and experiencing and learning more about your profession. So, how does a short sale listing vary from a traditional listing? Now, my opinion is that the short sale listing appointment is really your closing. 90% of the work that you do should be done at the listing appointment. In order, especially in 2013. And the reason I'm going to say this is, you know, I started doing short sales in 2007. I started with my own. And I kind of call that the Wild West. I didn't even, you know, who do you talk to in the bank? There wasn't such a department as loss mitigation. Forget forms. There was no such thing as forms. Nobody knew what you were supposed to send. Fortunately for all of us in this room, that is long gone. You pretty much know if you're working with the big banks, apart from some smaller credit unions, you got the form. Bank of America, you're an Equator. Chase is now an Equator. Wells Fargo's an Equator. So that part of our job has become relatively streamlined. I like to use the statement that 70% of short sales are what you expect them to be, right? They're a big bank, they got a form, you know that you need 2 years tax returns, 60 days bank statements, you need 30 days worth of pay stubs, or a profit and loss. Pretty straightforward. So if that's the case, then really you should approach your listing appointment as your opportunity to close the short sale. You should walk away from that table with almost everything done. And this is regardless of whether you process the short sales yourself or you work with a very competent team that processes them for you. The reason that a short sale listing appointment is so important versus a traditional listing appointment, we can go to the next slide. Talk about getting a plan, is you really need a plan. You need to be able to, like I said, not only sell the homeowner on listing with you, which is of course a very traditional thing. You know, when the market was really good and you were able to get a lot of listings, there would be 2 or 3 agents there. Well, now it's the same. You know, the different markets I go to, I just left Las Vegas, and we were talking about this before I came up here. There's only about 4,000 houses listed on the MLS. Half of those are people that are like marking them up, hoping they get a hit. Some are investors trying to flip. But there's 900,000 residents in the valley for 4,000 homes. Forget if anyone's trying to make any money. Imagine you have a kid. You need to get an extra bedroom, or you're getting married, you want to buy a new house. So now what you see is people really competing at the listing appointment. So getting a plan to make sure that you get the listing and close the short sale is very important. So the first point is the agent's ability to demonstrate that you know what you're doing in a short sale. You know, short sales are traditional sales for the most part. People are relatively excited about selling. You know, back in the heyday when they just made $100,000 in 6 months, you didn't have to convince them to sell, right? That was not the problem. Being able to sit with your homeowner and demonstrate you are the professional that can get them through this situation quickly is so important because because there may come a time, you know, I said 70% are the normal ones. Leave it to the 30 to give you the extra gray hairs, right? And you want, if your short sale seller happens to fall into that 30% where there's an issue, they need to trust you. They need to trust you and work with you, because if it takes them a week to get a form back, you know, I have this theory that every day you delay getting a form back actually delays your short sale 2 days because it leaves the processor's desk. You need to know that that homeowner believes in you, and the way that you do that is you demonstrate at the listing appointment that you can get the job done. And there's 2 ways to do that. The first way is to ask the right questions. Homeowners, and we'll talk about this in a little more depth, but for the most part, short sale sellers, you know, are a little concerned. I mean, obviously, selling your home is complicated enough, let alone with you maybe already be served with foreclosure, you're delinquent, you're getting the calls. You know, I work with a lot of families. You know, you're the breadwinner, you've lost your job, and now you're worried about losing your home and children. They don't know what you need to know to ensure that the short sale goes the way it's supposed to go. So you really kind of, you know, coming from a litigation background, it's easy for me to ask a lot of questions. But a short sale listing appointment is different from a traditional because you need to kind of pry a little. Do they know that they have any judgments against them? You know, is this something that we should be addressing? You should know at the listing appointment if there's an IRS lien. Now I know that, you know, the goal is that you're working with a title company that does title right away. But it really helps if you know at the listing appointment that there's an IRS judgment, because you could explain to them it won't ruin the deal. The IRS has a process in which they will release the property to be short sold, but we need to start that now because it takes 45 days. What have you just done with that homeowner? You know what you're doing. And now I can tell you about the fact that we didn't fix the roof leak. I can tell them about the fact that, well, we quit claimed the title back because we thought we were going to lose the property and thought that was going to help. They begin to open up because what you've just done is you've explained something that nobody else has explained to them, because they figured, well, we can't short sale anyways. So make a list of questions about judgments. Is there property repairs? You know, I do a lot of work in South Florida. One of the big issues, obviously, is termites. And one of the great things that's happening, again, to make 2013 another good year and another building year for real estate professionals who are still here, is the lenders are back in lending. You know, this time last year, half the closings I did, well, actually 70 to 80% were all cash. Now I'm looking at 50% with loans. That's wonderful. But I know that if there's termites in that house, I might as well not waste my time with a loan buyer, right? You want to know that at the listing appointment. You want to know that if you get a buyer that's got an FHA loan, the house has to be in a certain condition. You don't want to wait until you've gotten the approval 90 days later and you want to close and they do their inspection and you find out that you got a leaky roof or termites. And so you want to ask at the listing appointment and say, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. We can make sure that whoever the buyer is, if it affects the price, you just get an estimate from a licensed contractor and submit it with your short sale proposal. Now what have you just done? You've qualified yourself again. Not only did you identify something that could delay or potentially kill a short sale deal if you had a buyer, you've already solved the problem right from the start. Seller motivation, you know, again, we were talking about it's really easy to sell your house if you think you're going to get a $100,000 check, right? Not so easy to convince them to sell if they have to move their kids and they have to start paying again. You know, something else we were talking about before we began. You know, I work with so many sellers who have lived for free and they still haven't saved any money. And a lot of it, you know, job loss or whatever the condition may be. But they aren't really motivated to begin selling again. Or like I'm working with a woman now in South Florida, and God bless her. You know, her husband and her went through a bad divorce. She got the property in the divorce thinking, great, great settlement. Well, then we have this economy, not so good. And of course, his name's on the first mortgage because they couldn't refinance. Now she's dealing with him. And now she's realizing she can't afford to live in a 5,500 square foot rental. And she's now moving to like a 2,000 square foot rental in a totally different neighborhood that isn't in the same posh place she was. How do you motivate her to sell? Very important. And it's very important that at the listing appointment you have a plan for what you're going to say. I mean, obviously you either you cold called, did some, you set up the appointment, you did some listing, you have a general idea of what's going on. So like in this case, I was talking to the realtor about it as we got our approval in, and we got an amazing amount for the second, $40,000, because she's on the second. So her being forgiven the deficiency on the second was actually a big issue. But unfortunately, she only got $5,000 seller incentive. So I was helping the agent walk through what will be my conversation with her next week, which is, yes, but you still made it through with the 1099, we don't have that issue. You had a miracle happen that Wells Fargo gave $40,000 to a second lender, which would have killed the deal. And frankly, if you were foreclosed, you still get a 1099, but that would have happened outside of 2012, where I can't guarantee that the Mortgage Debt Relief Act will apply. And I have a cash buyer that we know can close, and he'll work with you over Christmas. And I'll tell Wells Fargo that you need to move after the first of the year so that you can have a couple weeks and not move before the holidays, versus being foreclosed and the bank telling you when they want you to move. These are important things to know. These are important things to be able to prepare your sellers to move. Okay? What you don't want to have happen is them freeze at the closing table, or we were talking about, the fact that the approval came in and they now have to house hunt. If you can prepare them and motivate them at the listing appointment that this will happen, and you should begin looking, and this is a good thing. You can start again, you can start anew. Like I'm going to say this lady, you don't have to deal with your ex-husband anymore. It's done, it's finished, you've moved on, right? But if you know this at the listing appointment, that's what I'm saying, the listing appointment will carry you through and solve a lot of these problems if addressed right then at the start. Then, like I said, if any of these other things crop up, and they will, and they happen, even the best laid plans, you may find in that 30%, like I said. But at least you have a motivated seller who's working with you. Seller knowledge. This, I don't know about you all, but this has driven me crazy on almost every deal. I talked to my uncle. Susie at work by the water cooler told me, or I heard, it's amazing. Everybody's an expert on short sales, but none of the people that gave them advice ever had a short sale. I'm like, really? Really? So be prepared for all the cousins, friends, well-wishers, and everybody who say, they told me I can keep my house because they can't find the original note. And all I have to do is pay this guy $5,000. And I heard last night, something like $8,000, and they get 3 times the worth of the house, so why should I sell? Come prepared with good websites. One of the things I learned in law school, and they prepared me to be a lawyer, is you don't have to know everything. And if you think you do, people won't want to hire you, because it's impossible, and everyone knows that. But know where to get the credible information. And again, it comes back to the first point. If you know the situation, or what are the top questions everybody wants to know? What does it do to my credit? What about the 1099? Can they take my 401k? There's questions that almost every short sale asks. And there's really credible government websites out there. There's some really fine websites that you can steer them to. Like IRS.gov is a godsend, which I'm not a big fan of the IRS, but they did a really good job dealing with the 1099 issue as it relates to over-leveraged homes. And as just kind of a segue here, if you go to the main site and go to the right top-hand corner, there's a search box. Just type in Mortgage Debt Relief Act. really easy to understand layman terms Q of A. You could probably even print that and take it to your listing appointment and give it to them, because they're going to ask you to be their accountant. Wow, you know, if anyone saw my checkbook, they would know the last thing that I want to do is be anybody's accountant. But I can steer them to the horse's mouth. The other thing it does too is they now have a tool to go to their accountant with. Because, you know, the way that the law is shaping up, of course, accountants are becoming more prepared as well. So that's important. Knowing if you don't have the answer or it's something that you should not answer, the other segue I always say, have the clerk of court website or a website where if they are delinquent, they can track their own foreclosure. Obviously, as a realtor, you are very qualified at what you're doing, but you don't want to wade into any litigation. My rule of thumb is you can talk in generalities, do not talk in specifics, and you're pretty good. Again, you can probably print the county website out, or there's a lot of information by clerk of courts now about what they can expect in a foreclosure, that if you print that or give them the website, you save yourself the effort. Preparation. This comes with, you've done all the market research, of course, and this is advanced short selling, so you already know that you're selling the house at market. You could care less what the mortgage amount is. I tell all my sellers, if you short the bank $1 or $1 million, as long as your deficiency is waived, what do you care, right? So you just want to be sure that you get a qualified buyer quickly. So you've already got your listing price pretty much solid. What else do you need to know at the time of the short sale listing that you normally don't have to know in a traditional listing? I probably would look, standard that I've heard from most realtors is you can pretty much look already and see if the house is in active foreclosure. You'll know that at the listing appointment. Why is this important? You want to know how many months it's in foreclosure. Obviously, if they've just been served, it's a lot different than if they haven't paid in 2 years. This is very helpful when you get a buyer's agent calling you. And the more prepared you are with answers for your buyer's agent, the more likely you'll have a buyer make it to the closing table. Switching buyers at some point in the transaction does nothing but slow your process down and wear out your seller. So by asking and being able to be prepared on whether or not they're close to a foreclosure sale, will make sure you know that you need a cash seller who's willing to close immediately versus a loan, which may take up to 60 days to get approved. Very important to be prepared on that. You also want to be able to see sometimes county websites before you even go to the table, you know, the number of loans. When you do intake before you even go to the listing appointment, I highly recommend finding out who the lenders are. Come with the forms, fill them out right there, have the answers. One of the things I'm seeing a lot from homeowners, first off, they get these forms and they're like 10 pages. But we all know that really the number of blanks on there should only take about 10 minutes realistically. But they figure that by the time you go delinquent to foreclosure, the bank has contacted you 111 times. That's just the bank. Forget about, you know, all the other solicitations from lawyers, we can help you or whatever it is. They're inundated, right? So they just kind of stopped all that kind of contact. So you want to be sure that you're kind of tuned in when they're looking at the forms, because one of the main faults I find when they fill out the forms, they don't include all their expenses. They're making it look like they have more money than they have. And a good example of that is I had a gentleman who was basically living off his overdraft protection in his checking account. But I could do the math on his sheet, and I'm like, it's telling me that you get an extra $500 a month, which is $6,000 a year. Well, he didn't include the fact he's divorced, but he has to pay his daughter's, you know, health insurance. He didn't include the fact that, you know, she's driving, so like he has to get a tire here or a brake job there for her. He didn't include these other items, which explained what I was seeing on the bank statement. And this doesn't take a lot, but if you're filling it out, is they know how much is gas a month. I mean, we all know what gas is. Food, and you know, people don't forget. I mean, every time I go to the drugstore, I don't know about you, I mean, deodorant, all of a sudden it's $100. This needs to be on the form. And what happens is if you're sitting with them and helping them and saying, well, it's not adding up, it brings to light. And it's one of the things, it's a tough conversation to have with people, but one of the things I use to try to lighten the mood when I'm sitting with a short sale seller, we're kind of going over finances, which is, you know, depressing in the best of terms, is short sales are the one time in your life where if your finances don't look good, it's a good thing. If your forms look like you, I had one lady look like she had $48,000 extra a year. And she's like, well, they didn't approve her the first time through. And she came to me and I said, I can see why, right? They're thinking, and I said, all it was we weren't explaining the forms and how she did the bank. So, you know, it's really important that if you come prepared with the forms, you know what you've got. And the other thing is, at the end of your listing appointment, you have the forms. You walk out of there with what you need to get it going. And then seller reservations. You know, talking about motivation and the reservations is the other big thing. What will my friends think? You know, I had a guy last night tell me about how he had a heart attack, that this, you know, this wasn't about him not wanting to pay his bills. I don't think I've worked with a seller yet who didn't want to pay his bills. Most people I work with bought the house with every intention on either making money off of it or living in it. And so when you go to a listing appointment, you know, I don't want to say that you don't want to be anyone's therapist, but it's different than a traditional appointment because you know that you're going to have some emotional aspect to it. And I normally mentally prepare myself for that because you never know what's going to come up. Because remember what I said from the very beginning, you need to ask the right questions. This is going to lead you to a lot of very important information, especially about the hardship letter, especially about if the bank comes back with some crazy approval. You're able to counter it because you have all the information you need. But at the same time, you are going to come across some of the reservations that they have, and you need to be prepared with those answers, like I was saying earlier, that how do you motivate them to sell? And the last one, which I kind of touched on already, is the forms, but what I didn't mention is, at this point too, when you're leaving the closing table, you should also have the buyer forms ready. I know in Las Vegas and Florida, and I was talking to some agents locally, that finding a buyer is not an issue. If you have a listing, getting a buyer should be relatively straightforward. When you get a contract in and you know it's a Bank of America sale, when you send back that contract, send back the Bank of America forms for them to sign then. It tells the buyer they're part of the process and they need to cooperate with the short sale too. The other thing is it gives you a good opportunity to explain to them and their agent that it's probably going to be about 30 days before you hear much because we're going to submit a total package now that you've completed what you've had to do. One of the things that, I don't know, it's not really scientific, but something I've experienced, a lot of first-time short sale agents are representing buyers. You know, that they have a regular buyer and the buyer just happened to fall in love with a short sale. It's important for those of you in this room that are in advanced short sales to be able to help that buyer's agent through, because you need that buyer to make it to the closing table. So when you leave your listing appointment with all the forms and packages ready so that when that contract comes over, you know exactly what you're sending over because you've already got them signed by your seller. You can explain to the buyer and the buyer's agent exactly what's going on. This is a Bank of America sale. We've already initiated it in Equator. We're going to put the package in. We expect the BPO to be done in the next 30 days. After the BPO comes back, we'll probably have a pretty good estimate whether or not your offer will be accepted. So they said, if you don't hear from us for 30 days, don't expect anything bad's happening. Because I've had it happen again and again. It's a new buyer's agent, and after a week, they're emailing going, you know, is it approved? And the concern I have with that is not so much that the buyer's agent's worried. It tells me that the buyer's worried because the buyer's agent hasn't relayed to their client that this is normal. That 30 days without a response back from the bank is normal. And you don't want a panicky buyer because what do? They start putting on offers on other properties. right? And you don't find out they've done that until you get your approval and they said, oh, well, he's in escrow somewhere else. Weren't you going to tell me? Well, no, they don't. And then that's the crazy thing, right? And I see a lot of people nodding, going, we've had that happen a lot of times. And so if you walk from your listing appointment, you've got the seller motivated, you're prepared, you know about the fact that you're going to have to work with an ex-husband and that there's some sensitivities there going on. You know that they don't want to move at Christmas time or a holiday, or their kids are changing schools, or whatever the case may be. So you already know to prepare the buyer about what your seller's move-out plan is, so the buyer has right expectations. You know that the house is in foreclosure actively, and you have a foreclosure date 30 days away, so you probably need a cash buyer, not a loan buyer. You already know what buyer you need. You have that buyer in front of you. You give them the forms. You're 90% done with your short sale. So whether you decide to give that again to a third party to help you negotiate, or whether you're going to negotiate it, you've already got all the tools you need to make that a 90-day close. And that's really, the nice thing is, and I'm going to keep using that 90-day close because the banks are really getting there. You know, a couple years ago, you couldn't believe what the bank said about them streamlining their process. We've hired more people, you know, I mean, all this stuff, we're going automated, you know, and you're like, yeah, sure. Or there's a new mandate from the White House, always like that. There's a new mandate which never trickled down. Now you are seeing it. And so now, if you are going to the listing appointment with every intention of closing the deal, your likelihood of having a 90-day short sale is really high. So this is all great news, right? You're my agent in Nevada closing 40 a year. Amazing. You've done that now for 5 years. You have 200 short sellers, plus all the buyers and plus all the agents that you've worked with. What do you do with all of this success? I mean, everybody in the room basically said, we're going to have short sales for another 5 years. So like that agent will, by the time it's done, have 400 short sale sellers. What do you do to make this launch your business? All this extra work, because everyone in this room knows a short sale is a lot more work. There's no doubt about it. You know, it just is what it is, but we're here. So now what do we do, and how do we make that into a long-term plan? And that's why I like to say, blaze your own trail, because I founded my business. You know, I started out opened my own firm in '07. I represented Homeowners Association. I was a litigator, and a little over 2 years ago, I pretty much all I did was go into short sale negotiation. And not that I wasn't successful in what I did, but I really saw a huge future in this market, because you are helping people in a crisis. These will be customers for life, all right? So how do we work that into our business and build it? The first one is your short sale client database. It's wonderful. Not only do we now have new loans for homeowners, we have new loans for short sale sellers. You know, if you short sold your house 2 years ago, you're back on the market buying. Or now, with the change of the HOPA program in June, I have sellers who are selling current. They only lose 50 points on their credit by short selling what's closed out. In Las Vegas, I have a mortgage broker telling me he can get them a new loan in 30 days. I have a couple right now, we're going to close them at the end of this month in Las Vegas. He's retiring. Their normal plan was to sell the house and downsize, so they stayed current. They'll own a new home by February. Pretty amazing stuff. So the 200, and now, of course, another 5 years, is 400 short sale sellers, are now 400 buyers. Because the one thing you know, they need a house, right? So how do you use that? And one of the things is, you know, whether your customers use your services or not, you know, I know a lot of people do cold calling, emails, they work with people who've done loan modifications, which of course are my next big wave of people short selling, because yeah, they got a great payment plan, but they're still way upside down. So if you talk to someone who did a loan mod a year ago, I'd give them a call back, say, how's your mortgage? How's that going? Are you still underwater? Still want to think about short selling? Because now that you know how to motivate people to do it, but if they did a deed in lieu, or they were foreclosed since the time you talked to them, the one thing you know, they need a house. And because lending has changed and lenders are working, and of course all of you, I'm sure, are solicited all the time by very qualified lenders, using your short sale database and all the work that you've done and your legwork and all those cold calling and all that money that you spent marketing, use it. Use it now because the market is caught up to you. The lenders are back. I mean, it's my catchphrase, this is the new subprime, but no, not really. You know, I was meeting with Bank of America in Chicago at an event, and they have designed a whole department to get people loans who did short sales. Why? Because they did the right thing. They took care of the mortgage. They could have walked away. They could fought it, continue to live there. But these are people who wanted to take care of the loan the best way they could. It's like I said to all my sellers. You know, they're like, well, I was raised to pay my bills. And I said, and you are, right? You're paying your bill, you're selling your house, and maybe you'll get a seller incentive, but you're giving them every dime otherwise. So the banks are really seeing that as an important thing. And one of the things at this point to talk about is, it's also why it's important at your listing appointment, when you have the mindset that these are going to be the people who sell this house are going to be the people I'm going to help them buy another house. And when you work with qualified lenders, you can sit at that listing appointment and tell them what to do so they can buy their next house. Talk about, again, qualifying yourself as an agent. You can say, okay, you're still current. So if you choose to stay current, using your savings, even though you may not get money at the closing table, here's the criteria for you to qualify for a new loan. Or say, okay, you've been delinquent 2 years, basically now, 2 years after that short sale closes, you're eligible for a new loan. And here is what you need. You need a W-2 income, you need this credit score, this. And you know what? I'm going to check back with you in 1.5 years and see how you're doing and see if you want to buy something. I think that this is the kind of information that, again, everyone in this room has made it through a real tough market. You're all qualified agents. But now, being able, this is what I call advanced short selling, what you've really done is they're going to leave that table and tell their friends who already short sold that you know how to get them a loan for their new house. So by tracking who you talk to and keep track of these lists, it's being done. Like I said, I'm working with agents now that are going back to the clients they short sold 1 year, 2 years ago, and now are working with them as buyers. Timelines, again, you're talking about whether they're current or not current, being able to know when to follow up. And that's what I said, don't do more work, maximize what you've done. For me, you know, I'm working with agents now going through where we've short sold and closed and going back and working with these people because, of course, those are my new customers, right? Buying, again, issues they may have as a lawyer, as a title company. Why go out and do new marketing if I can now market to people I already know have that need and I already have a relationship with? Again, this is the ultimate goal. This is kind of everywhere I've been traveling around the country. The goal now is back-to-back sales. You know, it used to be trying to convince them just to sell. If you're able to begin to market to people who are especially still current, that are upside down, retiring, downsizing, these kind of things, like my couple, that agent's thrilled, right? He got both sides of both deals. So he got 12% commission in 4 months. That's not a bad way to go. And even if you only do that 1/3 of the time, remember you're not duplicating your work. You're already at the table with these people. And what was the first thing I said today about the listing appointment? You've qualified yourself as someone who can get the job done. So they're also going to tell all their other friends and come back and do the same. That's why short sales, though they are a lot of work, they're probably one of the best referral bases you'll ever have because you've proven yourself. This is the greatest thing about short sales and also going forward and building your business. You now have all these people in your arsenal and you've worked with them again and again and again in some of the worst deals possible. I mean, I could probably call everybody up here who's closed a short sale and you could tell me a short sale nightmare story, right? And one of these people helped save you. The closing agent, the escrow agent, somebody came through in the pinch to make sure that deal got done. You know going forward that these are the people who will make sure whatever client you send them is going to keep your deal done. You have a rock solid team to go forward and refer. And this, I can't, you know, again, coming back to, I can't do everything, I can't know everything, but I can know who I can go to rely on and where I can get the information. And that's another huge benefit that you walk away from practicing in short sales, is you are working with a team of very qualified people. Okay, this I always laugh about because, you know, the craze now, I was reading a couple articles on the plane about these new industries coming out of LA where they're coordinating for all the celebrities and the famous, all of the different social medias. They were saying one of the reasons Rihanna got onto Battleship is because she has 28 million Twitter followers. So what they can do is the studios are leveraging her ability to market as part of the reason they're hiring and paying. And so I've started to learn this, which is like kind of funny. That it was cute because they were asking me to bring the thumb drive, and she's smiling. I'm like, okay, look, you know, I'm working on my social media. Don't ask me to do any kind of hardware stuff. But it's very important, and I don't know, I'm sure you're all on all of them, and probably more advanced than me, so I'm already telling you something you already know. But I will say that even if it seems daunting to do them all at the same time, pick your favorite. Mine happens to be LinkedIn. And the reason why, and I know Marie's heard me say this a couple times, they have great groups, especially short sale groups. You know, we were talking about some innovative things here today about the listing appointment and using it forward and using marketing you have. You can go to these groups, and all around the country they answer your questions. It's been a great education base for me to hear from someone in Montana or Connecticut or Ohio, and different things that they're doing in their markets to use their databases, et cetera, and so forth. But also be sure that you're reaching out to who your market is. You know, one of the things that we all, you know, you like social media and you work with your friends and family, and that's great. And you know, they are a referral source and a referral base. But if you're looking for people who are current on their mortgage so that you can do a back-to-back sale, are you in the right LinkedIn group to do that? Are you targeting, do you know the audience where you're going to succeed on using your database? Do you have all your short sale sellers all linked together in a group or something in, you know, one of your social media so that you can go back to them? Some way to spread the news to people about these new changes that now HOP is open to investors, you know, which wasn't available after June. I'm amazed how many, you know, some of the great changes in the laws, and we're laughing before I came in. The one area of legislation they seem to pass every 4 to 5 months seems to be in the short sale and the mortgage market. And the good news is in 2012 and going into 2013, it's all positive. So make sure you're using social media to really reach what your goal is. Again, it comes back to the whole beginning slide, got a plan. You know, if the goal is you want 12% commission on $500,000 from back-to-back sales in 4 months, make sure that that's where you're guiding your social media to. And then this is probably the most important slide out of all the slides that I've shown you today. You know, technology, I think, as I said, you can call or text anywhere you are. It does make life a little more hectic. But one of the things that, you know, go back to my first slide about tracking everybody you talk to, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you know, that's like so ominous. I know how many people I talk to every day or how many appointments I have. Technology is key, is really key. And the nice things about the short sale area, as well as real estate in the last couple of years, because it's become so performance driven as well as competitive, a lot of the software out there now has really caught up to that, which is wonderful. It's wonderful for all of you. You know I work with a lot of realtors that have cut back on assistants or staff. And there's technology out there to help you do all that and do it in a format like the eFax or websites. I cannot tell you how important websites are if you're on social media. Huge, 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 huge. I do e-flyers, and I'm going to tell you the number of emails I get they probably have all been to my website first. I have my SEO guys, which of course is, I'm using that term because it's something I've learned in the last 16 months and became very familiar with. They track the hits on my website, which I highly recommend that you do. And you see a increased spike after I send out an e-flyer. I mean, it's triple what a normal, I mean, it's incredible. I'll have 100 to 200 hits in one day after I do an e-flyer. If you don't have a website that reflects what you just did in your social media or your e-flyer, you're missing out. Huge. Now, websites sometimes can be expensive. That's not so important that it has all the bells and whistles and gadgets. But make sure it's consistent with what your e-flyer is. A lot of people are going to look at that first. Again, going back to the first slide about qualifying you, because really who you're targeting here is homeowners. So if they can go to the website and see different information about you, about what you've closed, you know, what your accessibility is, you know, all those kind of things, make it very consistent. And if you have the ability to track it, again, you know, we're all on budgets. I would suggest you do it, because the other interesting thing I found, a lot of my hits came out of Brazil. If you can track your website and find out, and I'm not doing e-flyers in Brazil. So the question that I'm saying is, how do you then leverage who's looking at your site? It's such a wonderful tool to use. And like I said, if you get with a pretty reasonable company, so if you start to do e-flyers and you're seeing traffic in areas that you don't understand, you can begin to do some research on it as to why that would be. And of course, for me, the reason it became pretty self-evident is they're having a good economy down there, and of course in South Florida there's a lot of buyers. So it was my ability then to work with my agents and send them work. Okay, so I think that, you know, being able to, again, use the work, you already have the website. You're already doing the e-flyers, you're already paying those bills. It's worth knowing the day after you've done that, how many hits you got on your site and where they came from, because then you're able to more pinpoint those people you know were interested. Also, if you do a flyer and you get no hits, throw the flyer out. So, you know, these are important things to be able to monitor when you're going forward and using the databases that you already have to see where your marketing dollars are working and to take that forward and into the new level in 2013. So, one more slide. Here is my website and my email and my phone number. I always take, you know, I respond to emails if you're in a short sale and you have a question about it. I'm more than happy. I'm also happy to hear about industry things or things in the market that you're coming across. I was fortunate enough, I did a panel up in San Francisco, and a woman had come up about a short sale she was working on, and she told me later how it worked out. And I want to hear about that because the one thing about this market, and we're talking, it's changing every 3 to 6 months. And to know what other people around the country are experiencing, because different parts of the market change differently, is really helpful, not only for me and my practice, but when I come and speak to groups like yourself, I'm able to be more educated about how we all can improve what we do together. So I hope that some of the tips I've shared or some of the things I gave you, you can use in practice and take forward. And again, thanks for participating in Advanced Short Sale.
Thank you, Renee. I appreciate that very much. Listen, in a lot of the points that Renee hit on there, we've got some people, one of our sponsors, Gladys in the back. Raise your hand, Gladys. If anybody, he's got a wonderful platform, software platform for short sales. You should stop and speak with him. Very knowledgeable in the field. He's got a great product, and you should talk to him. He's with the Realty Products Group. And also, where's Robert? Robert, he's with the Catalyst. You want to speak with him. A lot of these things that Renee was talking about in terms of your lender can help you understand what it takes to qualify people who've gone through short sales. introduce yourself to Robert, and he's another one of the sponsors that I think is going to be able to have a lot of answers and a lot of help for you. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. Do not leave, because remember, I forgot to tell you before, we are having a drawing at the end for an Equator certification, a $698 value. If you say, oh, I don't care, I'm already certified, you can use it next year.